Millionaire disguises himself to meet the reluctant bride, but her quiet kindness reaches him first. The night air trembles with rain as a lone car idles outside the towering Blackwell estate. Through the blurred window, a young woman stands frozen, her suitcase handle trembling in her grip. She looks over her shoulder, breath caught in her chest, as if the entire world is pushing her toward a fate she cannot escape. Inside the driver's seat, a man in a simple black jacket watches her quietly. His hands rest calmly on the steering wheel, but his eyes, steady, unreadable, follow her every move with a softness that should not exist in a place like this. She pulls the door open and slips in a back seat, her voice breaking. "Please just drive. I cannot marry that man." The driver exhales, barely audibly. If only she knew the truth. The man she is running from and the man she is begging for help are the same person. The wipers thud once. Rain slides down the glass like a curtain falling between who they are and who they will become. What's going to happen to them? Hello, everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. The car begins to move, its tires pushing through shallow puddles as the mansion's golden lights fade behind them. The camera follows the slow rise and fall of the young woman's breathing. Her name is Ava Collins. Her shoulders are tight, her fingers clenched together, as though holding herself is the only way to stay upright. In the rearview mirror, the driver watches her with quiet intent. He is tall, composed, and far too controlled to be just a driver. His name, unknown to her, is Adrian Blackwell, one of the wealthiest men on the East Coast. But tonight, he wears no designer suit, no shadow of his empire. He looks like an ordinary employee, and for the first time in years, he prefers it that way. Ava wipes her cheek and stares outside, her voice barely a whisper. "I do not want this marriage. I do not want a life built on someone else's decisions." Adrian keeps his eyes on the road, but something shifts in his expression. He hears the fear in her voice, the exhaustion, the quiet strength she is trying so hard to protect. She glances at him through the mirror. "You look like someone who listens, someone who understands." Adrian's hands tighten around the wheel for a moment. He does understand, more than she could ever imagine. He has lived his entire life surrounded by people who pretended to know him, but never saw the man behind the legacy. Yet somehow, this woman, who has never seen his true face, looks at him with an honesty he has not felt in years. The rain softens into mist as the road opens into the quiet outskirts of the city. Ava leans her head back, eyes half closed, her voice drifting. I wish the groom was someone kind, someone like you." The words land between them with a weight neither can ignore. And for the first time, Adrian feels his carefully controlled world tilt. He cannot reveal himself. Not yet. But he cannot walk away either. As the car continues down the dark road, one thing becomes clear. This night will change everything. The rain has softened into a thin silver drizzle by the time Adrian guides the car toward the quieter edge of the city. Streetlights pass along the windshield like slow pulses of gold, revealing the way Ava presses her palms together on her lap. Every gesture she makes is small, as if she is trying to make herself invisible. Adrian watches her through the mirror, but his expression remains composed. He senses there is far more beneath her silence than the fear of a forced marriage. There's a heaviness in the way she exhales, a heaviness he recognizes because he carries a version of it too. Ava breaks the quiet first. "I know I should be grateful. My family keeps telling me that this marriage is a blessing, a once-in-a-lifetime chance." She swallows, her voice thin. But they're not the ones who have to stand beside a stranger and pretend they are happy. Her words strike him with an unexpected sharpness. He has been in boardrooms full of people who smiled for his money, his power, his last name. Strangers who pretended to care. But none of their false smiles ever sounded as exhausted as the truth in Ava's voice. Ava looks at the passing houses, windows glowing softly behind curtains. I keep thinking, what if there had been another path? What if I met someone kind, someone who looked at me like I mattered, not like a piece of a business agreement? Adrian grips the steering wheel, holding back the urge to speak. If he tells her who he is, the fragile honesty between them could vanish. Yet remaining silent feels just as dangerous. She turns her head slightly, studying him. You do not talk much, but I can tell when someone is judging me. You are not. He opens his mouth, but no words come. Not yet. Ava smiles faintly, the first fragile smile of the night. You are the first person today who has not tried to control me. The car slows at a red light. Outside, a couple runs across the street under a shared umbrella, laughing as the rain splashes their shoes. Ava watches them, her eyes softening. I remember when life felt that simple, she says, before my father fell into debt, before my family started treating me like the solution they could trade. Adrian feels something shift in his chest. He had assumed she was reluctant because of pride. But it is not pride. It is protectiveness. She is carrying a weight she never asked for. When the light turns green, the car slips forward again. Ava sits straighter, breathing in deeply as if gathering courage. There is something strange about tonight, she murmurs. I feel like I can say anything. Maybe it is because I know you will not repeat it. You're just a driver. She stops herself, then shakes her head with guilt. That sounded rude. I did not mean to belittle you. Adrian shakes his head gently, eyes still on the road. Her apology says more about her character than her words ever could. Ava folds her hands again. I am supposed to meet the groom tomorrow morning. I keep imagining what he might be like. My mother insists he is very wealthy. My father insists he is generous. My relatives insist he is perfect. She looks down at her hands. But none of them have ever seen me. Really seen me. If I have to marry him, I want him to at least look at me once like a person. Adrian feels the breath leave his body. He has never felt so unprepared to be himself. The car turns onto a quiet road lined with dark trees. Adrian slows as they approach Ava's request. A small, empty overlook above the river. She asked him to stop there, just for a moment, so she could breathe. As the car rolls to a halt, she whispers, Can I stay here for a minute? I just need to feel like I am choosing something, anything. And for the first time tonight, Adrian faces the truth he is afraid of. This woman is not running from marriage. She is running from a life where she does not get to choose. The river below them moves like a long ribbon of silver under the weak glow of the street lamps. Adrian turns off the engine, leaving only the sound of the rain softening into gentle drops against the roof. Ava opens the door slowly and steps out, pulling her coat tighter around her shoulders. The night air wraps around her in a cold embrace. Adrian remains by the driver's side for a moment, watching her silhouette walk toward the railing. Her posture is fragile but steady, as if she has held herself through storms far worse than this one. Finally, he steps out as well. He does not stand too close. He simply waits, letting the space between them breathe. Ava inhales deeply, her eyes fixed on the water. It is strange, she says quietly. I have lived my entire life surrounded by people, but tonight is the first time I feel like I am not performing. Adrian studies her expression, the way her brows relax when she is allowed to be honest. You do not need to perform, he says. His voice is low, steady. Not with me. She looks at him with surprise, as if those words were something she has never been offered before. My family always taught me that appearances matter more than truth, she continues. They said dignity comes from making decisions that protect the family name. But none of those decisions protect me. She presses her palms against the cold metal railing. Adrian notices the faint tremble in her fingers. He steps beside her, not touching, but close enough to share the same breath. What about your decision? Asks. What do you want? Ava lets out a hollow laugh. What I want does not matter. What I want would ruin everything they're trying to save. Adrian hears the pain behind those words, and something deep within him responds. He had spent years being shaped by expectations, living as the flawless heir who never faltered. He knows the suffocating weight of other people's visions. Ava shifts her gaze toward him. You must think I am dramatic. No, he answers immediately, without hesitation. I think you're honest. The wind pushes her hair back from her face, and she looks at him more closely, as though realizing she has overlooked something. You speak like someone who understands, she says softly. Are you running from something too? For a brief moment, he considers telling her everything. His name, his title, the truth about tomorrow's groom. But the words stay trapped in his chest. He cannot risk breaking the fragile trust between them. Instead, he says, I understand complicated lives. Ava releases a slow breath. I wish tomorrow's groom understood anything at all. Everyone says he is powerful and brilliant, but none of them can tell me what kind of person he is. Her next words nearly break him. I wish I could meet him like this, without the pressure, without the name, without everyone watching. Adrian looks away, hiding the storm in his eyes. She has no idea that she already has. Ava turns back to the water. Sometimes I imagine a life where I make my own choices. A simple apartment, a small job, people who treat me like I matter for my own sake. She smiles to herself. A place where kindness is not a luxury. Adrian hears her, and the weight of his hidden identity grows heavier. He knows the world he comes from is nothing like the life she dreams of. Yet he also knows he cannot step back. Not anymore. After a long pause, she whispers, Thank you for stopping here. I needed this. He nods. Whenever you need space, I will bring you wherever you wish to go. She looks at him with a softness that reaches him more deeply than he expects. It is strange, she says. I feel safer with you than I do with anyone else. The rain stops completely, leaving the world silent. In that silence, Adrian realizes that every step he takes from this moment on will change the path of both their lives. And tomorrow, she will stand in front of the groom she fears, without knowing he is the man standing beside her right now. A thin layer of fog curls along the riverbank as Ava steps back from the railing, her breath settling into something steadier. The night feels gentler now, as though giving her permission to exist without fear. Adrian watches her for a moment longer before the two of them return to the car. The doors close with a soft echo, sealing them back inside the dim glow of the dashboard lights. The drive continues in silence at first. Ava rests her forehead lightly against the window, tracing the lingering raindrops with the tip of her finger. Her reflection in the glass looks softer than it did earlier, almost peaceful, as if something inside her has loosened. Adrian keeps his hands steady on the wheel, but the atmosphere between them has shifted. It is warmer, quieter, and more fragile than before. When they pass beneath a row of street lamps, Ava finally speaks. I feel guilty, she murmurs. I ran away from my own engagement dinner. I know my family will panic. Adrian glances at her through the mirror. You needed a moment to breathe. Anyone would. She shakes her head gently. Not anyone. People expect me to handle everything perfectly. If I show fear, they call me ungrateful. If I show sadness, they tell me to stop being dramatic. If I hesitate, they remind me of the debt my father owes. Her voice cracks just slightly. Adrian's grip on the wheel tightens again, the same reflex he felt earlier. His family has its own brand of pressure, its own cold expectations, but the way Ava carries her burden feels different. She carries it alone. As they turn onto the long road leading back to Blackwell Estate, the gates rise in the distance like iron shadows. Ava sits up straighter, her shoulders tensing. I should go inside, she says, although her voice sounds anything but ready. They will be waiting. Adrian slows the car near the entrance, but something catches his attention. Two men in dark coats stand near the main steps, arguing with the head housekeeper. Their voices rise, sharp and impatient. The moment Ava sees them, her face pales. That is the debt. Collector's assistant, she whispers. If he is here, my family must have begged for an extension. Adrian's chest tightens. He parks the car out of sight along the side path. Stay here, he says. Ava shakes her head quickly. No, they will not leave unless they speak to someone. But her voice trembles with genuine fear. It is the first time Adrian has seen fear this raw in her eyes. He steps out of the car, leaving the engine running. His posture shifts just slightly, still acting as the driver, but carrying an unmistakable authority that belongs only to a man who has negotiated with powerful figures his entire life. He approaches the men calmly, his tone measured. "Sir, the family is not receiving visitors at this late hour," he says. "You will need to return tomorrow." The taller man scoffs. "I do not take orders from a driver." "Move aside." Ava sinks lower in her seat, gripping the headrest. Adrian's voice remains calm, but it lowers into a tone that commands attention. "Then you can take this message back to your employer. Disturbing the Blackwell household after hours carries consequences that extend far beyond a missed payment." The men pause. The head housekeeper looks startled. The confidence in Adrian's voice is far too polished for a driver. After a tense beat, the two men exchange a look and retreat toward their car, muttering under their breath. When Adrian returns, Ava is staring at him as though seeing him for the first time. "You handled that so calmly," she says. "Most people would have panicked." Adrian settles behind the wheel again. "I have dealt with difficult people before." She studies him with quiet intensity. "You do not talk like a driver." His heart stutters once in his chest. A warning. The first crack in his disguise. But Ava looks away, exhausted from the night, letting the thought drift without pursuing it. She places her hand briefly over her heart, breathing slowly. "Thank you," she whispers. "I do not know what would have happened if you were not here tonight." As they drive through the gates at last, Adrian feels the weight of the coming morning closing in. Tomorrow, she will meet her groom, and she will not realize she already has. The mansion is quiet when they arrive. Only a handful of lights glow through the tall windows, casting long shadows. Across the stone courtyard, Adrian parks near the side entrance where the staff usually enter. The stillness of the place makes Ava hesitate before opening her door. The world outside suddenly looks heavier than the one she left an hour earlier. She steps out slowly, her posture small but steady. Adrian walks beside her, keeping a respectful distance, though every instinct within him wants to shield her from the walls that now feel colder than ever. As they enter through the dim corridor, the soft hum of servants cleaning up from the canceled engagement dinner echoes through the hallway. Ava clutches her coat a little tighter. Adrian sees the way her eyes lower as a pair of maids whisper and glance in her direction. Their voices are not malicious, but the weight of being watched presses against her anyway. Ava stops near the staircase. "I should go to my room," she says softly. "Tomorrow will be a long day." Adrian nods. "You should walk away. You should let the night end quietly." But as she turns toward the steps, she sways just slightly. It is small enough that anyone else would miss it, but not him. He reaches out instinctively. "Ava, are you feeling unwell?" She steadies herself quickly. "I am fine. I have not eaten since the afternoon." "It is nothing." But her voice trembles at the edges of exhaustion. Adrian gestures toward a side hall. "There is a staff dining room close by. I can bring you something warm." She hesitates. "I should not ask you to do that." "You are not asking," he says gently. "I am offering." Ava studies him for a long moment, then nods. A few minutes later, they sit at a small wooden table in the quiet staff dining room. The overhead light is soft, making the room feel warmer than the rest of the mansion. Adrian places a simple bowl of chicken soup in front of her. She wraps her hands around it, letting the heat seep into her cold fingers. "This feels more real than the entire day," she murmurs. "Just sitting here, eating like a normal person." Adrian listens as she takes small bites, her shoulders slowly relaxing. The faint color returning to her cheeks eases something deep inside him. She looks up at him suddenly. "Do you ever feel trapped by expectations?" His breath catches. "Every day." She tilts her head, reading his expression. "Is that why you became a driver? To escape something else?" For a heartbeat, he forgets to breathe. The disguise that once felt secure now feels dangerously thin. He answers carefully. "I took this job because I needed space from the world I usually live in." Ava nods thoughtfully. "Then we are not so different." Her words land deeper than she realizes. Adrian feels the divide between them, money power, identity, shifting, becoming something more emotional than practical. Ava sets down her spoon, her gaze soft but honest. I meant what I said earlier about wishing the groom was someone kind, someone I could talk to like this. Adrian's heart pulses sharply. The truth sits right behind his lips, pressing to be spoken. But he cannot. Not yet. He has seen the trust in her eyes, and he cannot risk shattering it before she knows him as a human being, not a title. He steadies his voice. You deserve someone who sees you. She exhales slowly, as if letting go of something she held in her chest all day. If only I could choose. She stands from the table, gathering her coat as she prepares to leave. But before she walks out, she pauses and turns back to him. Adam, thank you for taking care of me tonight. I feel like I can breathe again because of you. When she disappears into the hall, Adrian remains seated, the empty chair across from him holding the warmth of her presence. Tomorrow, she will walk into a room to meet her groom. And Adrian knows that moment will break something open in both of them. Morning arrives with a pale, reluctant light stretching across the Blackwell estate. The mansion's stone walls glow softly as the sun rises, but inside, the air feels taut, like a string pulled to its limit. Adrian stands near the tall window of his private office, dressed in a tailored suit that reflects his true status. For the first time in days, he is no longer Adam, the driver. He is Adrian Blackwell, the billionaire groom. Yet he does not feel steady. He has been up since before dawn, rehearsing the meeting he knows Ava expects. A meeting between a bride and a groom who have never exchanged a single word. A meeting she fears. A meeting she deserves to walk into with honesty. But honesty is the one thing he has withheld. Down the hall, footsteps echo softly. Adrian turns as his brother, Michael, steps inside. Michael studies him for a moment, then raises an eyebrow. You look like a man walking toward an execution, Michael says. Are you certain you want this marriage? No one would blame you for calling it off. The Collins family is a financial burden. You do not need all of this trouble. Adrian's jaw tightens. It is not trouble. It is unnecessary, Michael replies. You owe that girl nothing. Adrian looks away. He owes her more than anyone realizes. He owes her the truth at the very least. Yet he is about to meet her, as if everything between them began only today. Before he can respond, a soft knock comes from the doorway. It is the head housekeeper. Sir, Miss Ava Collins has arrived. Adrian's pulse stutters. This is the moment she has been dreading. The moment he's been postponing. The moment that will expose everything he has hidden. He follows the housekeeper down the grand hallway, toward the sunroom, where introductions always happen. The closer he gets, the heavier his steps feel. Ava stands near the large glass doors, sunlight glancing off her hair. She looks composed, but her hands are clasped so tightly that her knuckles are pale. When she turns and sees him, she takes a small step back, her breath catching. She knows him, not as the groom, as the man who drove her through the rain, the man who listened, the man who protected her from the debt collectors. Her voice trembles. Adam. The sound of that name in this room feels like a thread snapping inside him. Adrian stops a few feet away, forcing himself to breathe steadily. My name is Adrian Blackwell, he says. Ava stares at him as though her mind refuses to process the truth. The silence trembles between them. She does not blink. She does not breathe. The world seems to tilt. No, she whispers. She shakes her head once, then again, harder. No, that cannot be true. Adrian takes a careful step forward. Ava, I will explain everything. But she steps back, her voice rising with disbelief. You were the driver. You sat with me. You listened to me. You let me talk about the groom as if he were a stranger. You let me. She breaks off, covering her mouth with her hand. Michael watches from the doorway, stunned. Ava's voice splinters. You deceived me. Adrian's chest tightens. I did not want to deceive you. I wanted to understand you without the title, without the pressure, without the legacy. That was not your choice to make, she says. Tears begin to form, but do not fall. Not yet. She refuses to let him see that much. He steps closer. Ava, everything you told me last night mattered to me. Every word. I would never use it against you. She shakes her head again. But you already did. You made me trust someone who did not exist. Her voice is the quietest he has ever heard it, yet cuts deeper than anything anyone has ever said to him. The room feels colder. The sun outside feels dimmer. Adrian reaches out gently, but she steps back, refusing the gesture. I cannot do this, she says. Not like this. Then she turns toward the door, her footsteps barely touching the floor, but every step carries the weight of a woman whose world has just shifted beneath her. Adrian watches her leave, the distance between them widening with every second. He has spent his life controlling everything. But tonight, he will realize that losing her is the one thing he may not be able to undo. Ava does not slow down until she reaches the far end of the hallway. Her heels strike the marble floor in sharp, uneven rhythms, each step carrying panic and betrayal that threaten to spill out her chest. The housekeepers bow politely as she passes, but their faces blur in her vision. All she hears is the echo of Adrian's confession replaying in her mind. My name is Adrian Blackwell, the groom she feared, the billionaire she distrusted, the man she ran to last night for comfort. They were all the same person. She pushes into the guest room assigned to her and closes the door with trembling hands. The silence inside feels suffocating. She moves toward the edge of the bed and sinks down, gripping the sheets as though they're the only stable thing left. A soft knock breaks through the quiet. Ava, it is me, Adrian says through the door. Her breath stops. She does not answer. Please, he adds, his voice low, controlled but threaded with something. Raw, I know I handled this poorly. I just need to talk to you. She forces her voice to stay steady. I do not want to talk right now. A long pause follows, heavy with everything unsaid. If that is what you want, he says quietly, I will give you space. Footsteps fade. The hall grows silent again. Ava looks down at her hands, at the faint marks left from gripping the railing the night before. She thought she had finally found someone who saw her without judgment, someone who stood outside the world that controlled her. But Adrian had been standing directly in the center of that world the entire time. Her breath tightens. She rises and walks to the window. From there, she can see a portion of the front courtyard. Reporters have begun to gather outside the gates, cameras raised, voices spilling over one another. News must have leaked about yesterday's canceled engagement dinner. She shrinks back from the window instinctively. She does not want her story to become their spectacle. A sudden surge of voices echoes from downstairs. Ava opens the door a crack. Several staff members rush past, whispering urgently. The press has entered the property line, one says. Someone told them the bride ran away, another adds. They want a statement, a third mutters. Ava closes the door again, leaning against it. Heat rises behind her eyes. She knows exactly who the reporters want. They want her face, her reaction, her embarrassment. She presses her palms against her temples, trying to steady herself. Meanwhile, in his office across the hall, Adrian stands before his desk, every muscle in his body rigid. Michael paces behind him. This is why you should not have involved yourself emotionally, Michael says. The girl is overwhelmed. The press is circling outside, and the board is already asking questions. Adrian's voice is low but resolute. I will handle the press, and I will handle the board. But can you handle her? Michael asks. Adrian does not answer. He walks to the window and watches the reporters gather at the gate. Despite every warning he has ever lived by, he finds himself thinking only of Ava, alone in a room across the hall, believing she has been deceived by the one person she trusted. The guilt tightens inside his chest. He had wanted to understand her without the weight of his last name. Instead, he has become the reason she feels trapped all over again. He steps out his office and walks down the hall, stopping outside her door. He does not knock this time. He simply stands there, listening to the faint, unsteady sound of her breathing on the other side. Ava, he says quietly, I never meant to hurt you. She does not reply. She is sitting on the floor now, her back pressed to the door, tears slipping silently down her cheeks. Adrian closes his eyes. This is the beginning of the fallout the Blackwell family has never faced. A wound created not by power, but by trust. And trust once broken, is far harder to rebuild. The afternoon sun crawls slowly across the sky, turning the Blackwell estate into a stage of sharp lines and tense shadows. As the light shifts, the pressure outside the gates intensifies. Reporters continue to surge forward, their voices rising as security struggles to hold them back. Every passing minute feels like another thread pulling tighter around the house. Inside her room, Ava sits on the floor with her knees drawn close, trying to steady the storm inside her chest. Her eyes are swollen from silent tears, but now she forces herself to breathe deeply. She refuses to fall apart, even if the truth has shaken her more than she wants to admit. A small vibration breaks through the quiet. Her phone lights up on the bedside table. She stands slowly and picks it up. Dozens of messages flash across the screen. Relatives asking where she went, headlines containing her name, notifications from news outlets reporting that the bride disappeared. Her heart sinks. She never wanted to be a spectacle. A knock sounds sharply on the door. Ava freezes. "Ava, it is the housekeeper," a gentle voice says. "You have a visitor downstairs." She says she is a family friend. Ava frowns. She is not expecting anyone. She descends the staircase cautiously, and when she reaches the bottom, she finds an older woman waiting in the foyer. The woman is dressed simply, with warm eyes that radiate calm. She holds a small envelope in her hands. "My name is Margaret," she says. "I was the personal assistant to Adrian's mother." Ava tenses. She does not know whether to stay or run. Margaret continues softly. "I can see you are overwhelmed. I will not keep you long. I only want to tell you something the world often forgets about the Blackwell name." Ava says nothing, but she remains still. "When Adrian was a child," Margaret begins, "he wore every expectation that this house demanded. Every title, every duty, every fear of disappointing the legacy he was born into. But beneath all of it, he was always a kind boy. That part of him never changed. He hides it because power has a way of attracting people who want to use it." Ava shifts uncomfortably. Kindness does not excuse deception, and deception does not erase sincerity. Margaret replies gently. "He did not fool you for entertainment or manipulation. He did it because he's been hurt before. Deeply. You were the first person in years who spoke to him as a human being, not a title." Ava swallows hard, her grip tightening around the railing. She does not want to feel sympathy. She does not want to feel anything at all. But the truth in Margaret's voice lands with quiet precision. Before Ava can respond, a loud commotion erupts outside. She steps toward the window and sees several reporters pushing past the main gate after a security lapse. Cameras flash rapidly. Voices shout her name. Ava's breath catches. She backs away from the window, shaking her head. "I cannot do this. I cannot let them pull me apart on camera." Margaret touches her shoulder softly. "Then let him protect you. It is the one thing he knows how to do." As if summoned by those words, the front doors open. Adrian appears, his expression sharp with control, yet heavy with exhaustion. He takes one look at the reporters storming the courtyard, then turns to the head of security. "Get them out. Now." Men rush forward. The reporters are corralled out of the property with firm force, but their shouts continue to echo. Ava watches from the stairs, her heartbeat thundering. Adrian's presence radiates a command that does not need explanation. He is every bit the billionaire heir the world expects. But when he lifts his eyes to hers, something in his expression softens. It is not power. It is not authority. It is worry. He steps inside, closing the door behind him. "Ava," he says quietly, "you are not safe near the windows. The press is relentless today." Ava's breath trembles. "I did not ask for any of this." "I know," Adrian replies, and the pain in his voice is unmistakable. She looks at him for the first time without anger, but not yet with forgiveness. Something unspoken moves between them, thin, fragile, but undeniably real. For the first time since the reveal, their eyes hold rather than break. Everything around them is chaos. But something in this moment is the beginning of a shift neither of them can ignore. The noise for the courtyard finally fades as security pushes the last of the reporters back beyond the gate. The heavy front doors close, sealing the world outside. Inside the foyer, the silence that replaces the chaos feels almost unreal. Ava stands on the staircase, her hands still resting against the railing, her breath slow and unsteady. Adrian steps forward, but not too close. He has learned, painfully, that closeness is something she must choose. Ava, he says quietly, I want you to hear this without interruption. I did not approach you to mock you. I did not lie to gain an advantage. I became Adam because I needed to learn who I was without the weight of my last name. And then you walked into my life and saw me in a way no one has in years. Ava's eyes lower. Her pulse thuds in her ears. She wants to believe him, but her heart is still sore. Margaret, standing to the side, gives Ava a small nod before slipping away silently, leaving them alone. Adrian continues, his voice steady but vulnerable. You told me you wished your groom was kind. You told me you wished he understood you. You told me you wished he listened. I failed you the moment I withheld the truth, but I did not fail in wanting to be exactly the man you hoped for. Ava exhales, her chest tightening. You should have trusted me. I know, he answers. The admission is quiet, but it carries the weight of everything he has not said. I was afraid, not of you, but of what it would mean to need someone again after everything I have experienced. She steps down one stair, then another. You were the one person in this house who made me feel safe. Her voice softens, but it still trembles. And then you became the one person I felt most deceived by. Adrian's breath catches. He feels every word like a blade, but he does not look away. That is why I will not hide anymore, he says. Not from you, not from a board, not from my family. He reaches into his jacket and pulls out a folded document. This is the annulment. Signed by me. You are free to walk away with no obligation to my family, my name, or any contract. Ava's eyes widen. She did not expect this. Not from a man raised in power. Not from a billionaire groom who was supposed to protect a legacy above all else. You will let me go? She whispers. If that is what gives you peace, he replies. Your freedom matters to me more than a marriage built on fear. Ava looks down at the document. Her breath shakes. The signature is real. The offer is real. The freedom is real. And with that realization, something inside her loosens. You protected me last night, she says softly. You stood up to the collectors. You shielded me from the reporters. You treated me like a person when everyone else treated me like a transaction. Her eyes rise to his. And Adam, or Adrian, you listen when no one else did. For a moment, neither of them moves. The air between them is fragile, electric waiting. Adrian speaks first. I want you to choose what happens next. Not your father, not the reporters, not my family. You. A single tear slips down Ava's cheek, but this time it is not from fear. It is from clarity. She steps down the last stair, standing directly in front of him. Her voice is a breath. Then I choose truth. Adrian's eyes soften as she places her hand over his heart. The gesture small, but absolute. If you want to build something real, she says, you have to let me see you. All of you. No masks. I will, he whispers. She leans into him gently, resting her forehead against his chest. The world outside still screams her name, but inside the foyer, everything is still. Ava has chosen not the billionaire nor the driver, but the man. Adrian wraps an arm around her with careful reverence, as though he is holding something irreplaceable. And for the first time, their story moves forward without deception, without pressure, without fear. Only truth, only choice, only them.